Hi, I am Adam Gray. I am here interviewing Jared Hoffert, who's playing the role of Tevye in the upcoming Fiddler on the Roof. It opens on April 10th and runs through April 26th. Get your tickets at stagecrafters.org. I'll say that again near the end. But I am here with Jared, who's playing the lead, and it is great to talk to you. How you doing, Jared?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
So let's talk a little bit about the show, Fiddler on the Roof. How do you describe Fiddler on the Roof to people who are not familiar with the show?
It's funny because I was just asked that the other day by somebody who I found out did not know Fiddler at all. And the first thing is that actually surprised me because it is classic American musical theater. It's been around forever. There's, the film of it, everything. And there's been multiple revivals on Broadway. So it took me a minute actually because I'd never really thought about how I would describe this to somebody. And of course, now I think about it a little bit. It's early 1900s Russia/Ukraine area, and it centers around a Jewish community. And within that Jewish community, specifically one family, and that's Tevye's family. Tevye is the patriarch of the family, and he narrates and is the central figure of this show. And it deals with how the world is changing around him. The big thing for people who know the show is tradition. The traditions of the Jewish culture, and maybe even just the geography of the time, but mostly the Jewish culture and how things were changing at that point. His family, of course, is his wife and his 5 daughters. And they're each talked through in some point in the play. 2 of them are younger, so it doesn't really go into them. But the older 3, it's about how they're changing, how they get married, and how their choices and what goes into them is changing the traditions of the time, and how Tevye responds to it and accepts or doesn't accept these changes, and how the community as a whole perceives everything. There's also some side story to it, not just that, but also the Jewish communities of that geography at that time and how they were thought of by the non-Jewish communities and what happens to them at the end. Again, I'm not going to give anything away. I think a lot of people know it, but for those that don't, I won't give it away.
So the role of Tevye, you have a lot to do in the show, but I like to think people put in this effort because they're passionate about it, and I think that's true about you. What do you like about this role you're playing?
As an actor, it's a meaty role. There's a lot to do. When I announced to friends that I was doing it, one of my friends said, I've done it before. Just know it's not the hardest music in the world. You'll be fine with that, but there is a lot. There's a lot of it, a lot of songs, a lot of dialogue and monologues. So just be prepared. There's a lot to do. What I particularly like about it, this has been on my bucket list for a long time. One of the top 3 roles I've wanted to do before I die. It's not only the fact that it just, again, as an actor, those wonderful meaty roles, but also how I identify with the character. I have a daughter at home. So the culture and religion, that's who I am as well. And also the relationships with the daughters. There's a lot that I can bring to that from the experience that I have with my own daughter, who's not at marrying age yet. But, there was actually, it's interesting because she just did a show at her high school where she came out on stage in this beautiful dress. She did The Witch in Into the Woods, and she came out in this beautiful dress. And I looked at my wife and went, she's not our baby girl anymore. And so it's just, so there's a lot of identifying that I can do with Tevye, and I hope that I can bring that to the performance and convey that to our audiences.
That's lovely. Congratulations to your daughter, by the way. It's a meaty role.
Again, right?
You talked to me about some of what you have to do in this show. You mentioned that you have to get through these character emotional changes really nimbly. You have to get from one place to another in half a page. How do you solve that puzzle as an actor?
Well, a couple different ways. On your own, you do your homework, and you kind of look through and see where you can do those emotional transitions or take the pauses that make that transition more real, but also with your scene partners, the people you are working with in that scene, because it's not just about what you're doing, it's about what they're doing and what you're doing together, and communication. Theater is communication. Without communication or without listening, there is no theater. So yeah, the lines are there, but are you listening to your partner? And what can I give my partner to help them get from point A to point B, and what they're giving me in return? If it's not there, it can make your work harder because you have to bring more to your own performance. But I think in this show, the people I'm working with we're giving each other, and it's a good thing. It helps us all be able to tell this story and convey it in a way that the audience will hopefully appreciate.
Yeah, and I do think you are newer to Stagecrafters. Yes. What has it been like, joining this community, being in the show as a newer?
My experience with Stagecrafters is an interesting one. Back in the COVID year, I was actually cast in a second stage show, Working the Musical. Good group of people. Wonderful thing. I love that musical. For those, it's not very well known, so go look it up. There are 2 different versions of it. Both are great. But we were that show that had the final dress rehearsal, went home, and then the next morning, the entire world shut down. So we never got to do it on the second stage. We ended up coming back and doing it outdoors when things were able to calm down a little bit, in the back of Ridgedale Players, a joint production. We staged it outdoors in their beautiful, huge area outside to make it socially distant, and it worked, and it was nice. But, never on stage at Stagecrafters. So this is my first show in the building. And, it was interesting because I literally walked in the auditions and I was like, I don't know anyone. I mean, one of our producers actually did produce Working, and I knew her. That was it. So, and it's funny because those are plus and minuses about those things. Sometimes in community theaters, people like to cast who they know. And I experienced that before. But also I love being the new guy because they don't pigeonhole you. You're not, oh, I know what this person can do. No, let me show you what I can do. And it was a good experience. The whole lead up to the audition was... Yeah, you had an adventure in the week before auditions, I think. The audition was on a Saturday, and the Tuesday before, it was that morning where we had very thin layer of ice coating everything. And I was walking the dog at 7 a.m. On the way home, I slipped and fell right flat on my back. So I hit my back and I hit my elbows. I have a body reaction that I tuck my chin when I fall. It's from stage combat training, thank God. But okay, got up from that. I was okay. The back is okay. Let's go home. Literally the next driveway, it happened again, 2 times in less than a minute. Same type of fall. I literally yelled a 4-letter word.
You said help.
Yes, that's it. I said help, right? And literally, as I'm sitting there on my back, my first thought was, okay, how do I get up? Very carefully. And my second thought was, oh my God, there goes my chance at Tevye. So I got up, got inside, and as I sat down, I realized I shouldn't sit down for long. Got up, took 2 steps, and realized I can't move my leg. I was dragging my leg. I couldn't move it. My wife came home. We went to the emergency room. X-rays, no breaks, thank God. But, why can't I move my leg? So we went home with painkillers. And the next morning I woke up and it was markedly better. I was able to limp badly, but I could move my leg. So I waited to see, before I said anything to anybody, let's see if 2 more days will help it heal. Friday came. I could only walk the dog maybe 3 houses before I had to turn around, come back. And so I emailed the creative staff and said, listen, I still plan on coming to audition. I can read for you. I can sing for you. I cannot dance. My body, you'll see, I'll be limping on stage, just letting you know. I hope that's okay. And they were very understanding. They said, we're sorry this happened, but please come in. We'll deal with it. And so I was very happy to see that they were open to it and they could see through it, and they didn't need to see me dance the Russian dance, which was not what I was going to ever be cast as anyway. I'm a mover, not a dancer. So, the rest is history. I was offered the role, and I thanked, Ari, who's directing. I thanked her. I said, thank you for understanding and seeing past that, and also for, being willing to give this big of a role to a new guy. right? So that I thought was wonderful too. I've seen, I think the first day we had the read through where we realized like half the cast are new to Stagecrafters. So, which is a neat thing too, bringing more people. It's a good thing to have that reputation where, you can go to a place and not feel like, well, I'm never standing a chance because the same people always get cast, right? So far, it's been a good experience.
It has actually been a good year for new casts at Stagecrafters. Tuck and Frozen and Fiddler and Murder and Newsies, I think, all have crops of people who are brand new to theater. It's really nice to see.
Fantastic.
So I do want to draw a little bit into your further back history. You mentioned to me that you spent a long time in New York doing some acting along with some other things. And there's a story about an open call you went to for a certain production of Jesus Christ Superstar that I would really like to share with people listening.
Yeah. It's I spent 17 years in New York pursuing the life, if you will. Met my wife there. We had our daughter while we were there, and then after a certain period of time, realizing that we're not doing it for a living anymore, circumstances brought us back to Michigan. I grew up in Southfield, but the time in New York, I wouldn't trade for anything. I loved living there. It's one of those things that you're excited. You're like, okay, it's good. Okay, I hate it. And then it becomes, this is home. And I look back fondly on it. Now, am I glad I'm in Michigan now? Yes. We've developed quite a nice, comfortable life here since we've moved back, and our families are closer. And my daughter grew up with great schools and has good friends and lives in a house instead of a 2-bedroom apartment. So the story getting into that was, when I was auditioning for everything and anything that I could get at the time, there was open call for Jesus Christ Superstar. Ted Neely, who played Jesus in the movie, was going to go out on tour as Jesus, and they were putting the cast around him. So I went across town, went to the audition, and there are literally 100 or so guys in the holding room. And I figured, okay, that's fine. I'm going specifically for Caiaphas, who I have the ability to sing that role. For those who don't know, is very low notes. He's very basso. And so there's, I think, a select group of people who can sing that role. And I had done it before. So I was like, let's go for it. Why not? Big old national tour with Ted Neely. Let's do this. So I showed up, and after a few minutes, the stage manager came out and said, okay, there's so many of you, we are going to do a type out. For those who don't know, that is basically they're going to look at you. If you have the look they want, you get to stay or come back to sing. If you don't have the look, sorry, bye. That's theater. So I went and looked at everybody, and they all had, ponytails and long goatees, and I have short hair, and I had a goatee, but it was, closely trimmed. They're looking for apostles. I am never going to make it through a type out for the apostle. I want to be seen for the role that they need to hear me sing. So with thinking in my head going, is this the most unprofessional thing I can do? Oh, screw it. I took out my resume and headshot, and I took out a highlighter I had in my bag and highlighted 6'5", because traditionally Caiaphas is tall, that I highlighted that I'd done Caiaphas before, and I highlighted bass baritone for the voice part. So we go in, they brought us in 20 at a time. Everybody stand in 2 rows of 10, and they laid out the headshots on the table in front of the creative staff in the order we were standing. And they look at all the headshots, and then they flip them over to the resume side, and the choreographer is looking, and I notice him laugh, and he elbows the director and points at something on the table. And I just started smiling. I'm like, he's pointing at my resume. I know he is. And sure enough, the director laughed and looked up and went, Mr. Hoffert, are you a bass or a baritone? And I said, today I am a bass. And he said, okay, go over to the piano. And we had a accompanist there, and said, vocalize him down. Let's see if he can hit that low C sharp that Caiaphas hits. And I hit it. And the guy said, oh yeah, he's got it. All right, everybody, thank you very much. Mr. Hoffert, stick around. So it got me through the type out, and I talked with him a little bit, sang a little bit, and then like a week later, I found out they canceled the tour. They never did it. So I was, this close, but it's still one of my favorite stories of the audition circuit and whatnot. I mean, there's probably 20 million stories that I've forgotten, but that one sticks out.
That is a great story. I wanted to ask you one more thing here. Those of us who do community theater. It's the sort of thing we need to balance with the rest of the things in our lives, with our day jobs, things like that. And so how has your relationship between community theater and your professional work, how does that work?
It depends on what the situation is. It's changed over time. Now, when I first moved back to Michigan, we moved back here in late 2012. My daughter was 2 years old. Our time was devoted to her. So neither my wife nor I were doing theater at the time because we were raising our child. And then a certain theater was doing a show that I really liked doing a character in before, and my wife knew it, and she said, just go do it. We'll make it work. So I did. And then as we found out that as my daughter became less needy on us, of course, it opened things up for us to do more theater. And for a while in my daughter's elementary years, it became, okay, whose turn is it, if you will? Because you just did something. It's your turn now. Let's spread the wealth. Now, with my daughter being 15, she's much more self-sufficient, so we can go do things and not necessarily worry about her not being able to do anything on her own. But also the joy of that is she was bit by the theater bug a while ago, and she does stuff with us now. So that's part of it from a family aspect. From a job aspect, because I do have a real-life job, which has nothing to do with the theater, you make time for it, right? It's part of who I am. I have a degree in this. I've been acting since I was in elementary school in one way or another. And it's really what I love to do. So you make time for it. I had a role where I work a few years ago, which is high pressure. You're never sure when the next shoe was going to drop the next day, all that sort of thing. And I went and did a show, and one of my coworkers asked me, how do you have time? And she was right, but at the same point I said, I have to make time. I will make sure I get stuff done, but I have to make time because I need this. This is who I am. If I don't do this and just do the job at that time, that was very stressful. I would have gone nuts, right? So theater is not only important to me just so much when I enjoy it. Like I said, it's who I am. It's a release for me. I get a lot of joy from it. So I make time for it. And now I have a work-life balance where I can do a couple of shows a year, where I can make sure my daughter gets what she needs, my wife gets what she needs, and that as a family, it works for us. So yeah, you got to figure it out. It takes some work, but it's a necessity for me. So I make it work.
I think that sense of needing to do it and really understanding how it kind of feeds your soul is something that a lot of your fellow performers and fellow travelers, fellow artists can relate to. Mm-hmm. I think that's as good a note as any to end on. Is there anything else you'd like to share before we go?
Putting me on the spot. I don't know. Get your tickets April 10th through the 26th, stagecrafters.org. Let's sell this puppy out. Come on.
Save me the time of having to say it again. Thanks so much, Jared. It has been great to talk with you. Everybody come see Fiddler. It's going to be a great time.
Absolutely a pleasure. Thank you.